Marcus is 34. He designs apps for a living. He knows exactly how attention works. He studied it, applied it, built products around it. He deleted TikTok. He turned off most notifications. He reads about digital wellness. He's not someone you'd call uninformed. Last year, he logged his screen time for 30 straight days. The average was 7.5 hours. Not 7.5 hours of anything he deliberately chose. 7.5 hours of pull to refresh. Of scroll, pause, scroll again. Of content he wouldn't recommend to anyone. Content he didn't even enjoy. He knew it in real time. And he couldn't stop. He thought the problem was pleasure. That he was chasing a feeling and couldn't quit the feeling. That if he just wanted it less, he'd use it less. Reasonable theory. Completely wrong. Because dopamine is not the pleasure chemical. It has never been the pleasure chemical. That story, the one you've heard your whole life, the one in every wellness article, the one your brain uses to explain your own behavior, is not just an oversimplification. It is a scientific error, one that has been very useful to some very large companies. And the gap between what you've been told and what actually happens inside your brain is exactly the size of the trap you're living in. The man who blew this open is Berridge, a neuroscientist at the University of Michigan. In the 1980s, he did something that seemed straightforward. He depleted dopamine in rats, completely. Then he gave them sugar water. The rats still made the pleasure face, the same expression rat pups make when they taste something sweet. Still present, still working. They liked the sugar, but they wouldn't move to get it, even when it was placed right in front of them. They wanted nothing. The liking was intact. The wanting was gone. Then he ran it in reverse. He stimulated the dopamine system without changing anything about the reward. The rats quadrupled their effort to find food, but they didn't enjoy it more. Two systems, completely separate, one for wanting, one for liking. Dopamine is the wanting system, not the liking one. And what this means, for Marcus, for you, for everyone, is that you can compulsively scroll a feed for 2 hours while feeling absolutely no enjoyment from anything on it. Not because you're weak, because your wanting system is fully lit while your liking system is getting almost nothing. You are hunting without finding, every single time. But wanting alone doesn't explain the loop. What keeps you inside it is something called reward prediction error. Wolfram Schultz, a neuroscientist who later won the Nobel Prize, was studying monkey brains in the 1990s. He found that dopamine neurons don't fire for the reward itself, not once the reward is expected. They fire for the gap between what you predicted and what actually happened. Unexpected reward, massive dopamine spike. Expected reward, nothing. Expected reward that doesn't arrive, dopamine drops below baseline. The brain registers a deficit, a kind of hunger, and that hunger pushes you to search again. Your brain isn't chasing the reward, it's chasing the uncertainty of the reward. Robert Sapolsky, the Stanford neurobiologist, found the exact peak of this. Dopamine levels are highest when the probability of a reward is exactly 50%. Not guaranteed, not impossible, right in the middle. The uncertainty is the drug. He called it the magic of maybe. Casinos have known this for 100 years. Now your phone knows it too. Every time you open an app, your brain runs that calculation. Maybe something interesting, maybe nothing. 50-50, and that maybe is enough to keep the entire engine running. There's still another layer underneath this, and it might be the most important one. Hijacked mapped the brain's primary emotional circuits, and he identified one he called the seeking system. Ancient, pre-mammalian ancient. Its entire purpose is to drive organisms to explore, forage, and search. And here's the key. Dopamine is released during the search, not during the find. The hunt itself is neurochemically rewarded. The system has two phases: the hunt, scanning, scrolling, swiping, and the find, consuming something meaningful, arriving somewhere. Dopamine runs the hunt. Opioids and endocannabinoids run the find. Completely different chemicals, completely different experiences. What modern apps have engineered is a way to stretch the hunt indefinitely and remove the find entirely. Infinite scroll has no bottom. Pull to refresh has no final result. Headlines without articles, thumbnails without depth, endless scent, no prey. Your brain is rewarded for searching, so it keeps searching, because the architecture was specifically designed to give you just enough scent to keep going and never enough substance to stop. The hunt was built for a world where the prey was real. Your brain doesn't know the prey is gone. Now here's the part that changes the frame completely. Because everything so far, the neuroscience, the error, the architecture, you could still file under unintended consequence. Design gone wrong. Companies that didn't understand what they were building, except they knew. In 2021, leaked internal documents from Meta revealed that company researchers had a name for what they were creating in their users' brains. Reward deficit disorder, a state where the brain has been so saturated by high-frequency digital stimulation that normal life, walking, reading, sitting in silence, talking to someone, registers as flat. Gray. Not worth doing. The same documents described Instagram as a drug, the company as pushers. Mark Zuckerberg was reportedly informed that 3% of their user base was experiencing severe problematic use. His response, as documented internally, was essentially this: 3% of billions is still millions of people. Not a problem to fix, a scale metric. And it doesn't stop there. Internal YouTube data showed that accounts belonging to minors were, on average, active for 938 days before the system flagged them. 2.5 years of a child's attention before the platform acknowledged the account existed. This is not a bug. The design is the product. The system also knows where you are before you do. That's not a metaphor. Your phone responds to a notification in 100 to 200 milliseconds. That response, the pickup, the look, the thumb already moving, happens before your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for conscious decision-making, has finished processing the signal. You're already in the hunt before you've decided to hunt. 46 to 96 notifications per day, each one a trigger, each one arriving before the thinking brain can say no, and the effects compound. After a single digital interruption, the average person takes 23 minutes to fully return to what they were doing before. You pick up your phone 96 to 144 times a day. Do the math on how much uninterrupted thought you actually have left. Some people have reached the point of phantom vibrations, feeling their phone buzz when it hasn't moved. The brain has become so conditioned to hunt that it starts generating the trigger itself. The system has moved inside, and when you try to stop and can't, the trap adds one final layer, because each failed attempt registers as evidence. Quiet, persistent evidence that you can't trust yourself, that you have no discipline, that the problem is you. The shame loop activates, and the fastest relief from that shame is the same thing that created it. So you go back. The feed produced the wound it now treats. That's not a coincidence. That's a retention mechanism. There is a way out. But it doesn't start with wanting it less. It starts with understanding that this is an environment problem, not a willpower problem. Tristan Harris, who spent years as a design ethicist at Google, put it plainly: it is not a fair fight when there are thousands of engineers on the other side of that screen using your own brain against you. You don't win by trying harder. You win by changing the terrain. First, eliminate the triggers before the 200 millisecond window. Turn off notifications, not reduce them, eliminate them. Every notification that stays on is a scheduled interruption you've already agreed to in advance, before the moment arrives, before you had a choice. Second, remove the apps from your home screen. Friction matters more than you think. The hunt begins with a visible cue. Remove the cue, and the chain breaks before it starts. Not impossible, just one more tap further away. Third, create a destination for the seeking system. It will always run. That's not a flaw. It's what built civilization. The question is what hunt you send it on. Long-form reading, physical projects, conversations that require your full presence. These give the system something it can actually finish. A real end, a real find. Fourth, tolerate the flat period. When you first reduce digital stimulation, real life will feel genuinely boring, slow, and gray. That is not a sign that real life is inferior. That's the tolerance dropping. The flatness is withdrawal, not truth. It takes days, sometimes weeks, for the nervous system to recalibrate. The people who get through it describe the other side as a return, the ability to finish a book, to sit in silence without reaching for anything, to feel interested in a conversation again. In March of 2026, a jury in Los Angeles ordered Meta and Google to pay $6 million to a single plaintiff for addictive design harms. The same month, a New Mexico verdict hit Meta with $375 million for child safety violations. The legal theory that sticking is not about content, it's about the architecture. The platforms themselves and the way they're designed are the defective product. What courts are now confirming in legal language is what neuroscience established 30 years ago. The hunt is the product, the architecture is intentional, the harm is by design. Over 2,100 cases are currently active in the social media addiction MDL. That number will grow, not because the science is new, it isn't, because the evidence is finally visible. Marcus, the designer who was logging 7.5 hours a day, made one change. He moved his social apps into a folder inside another folder, 2 taps away from where they used to live. Average pickup time went from automatic to about 4 seconds. In that 4 seconds, his prefrontal cortex could get involved. He started actually deciding. He didn't detox. He didn't delete everything. He added friction to the place where the hunt used to start without his permission. He said later that the strangest part wasn't feeling better. It was realizing for the first time that he'd been hunting for something that wasn't there. For months, for years, probably. Chasing a scent in a jungle where the prey had never existed. Dopamine was never about pleasure. It was always about the hunt. And for the last decade, the hunt has been managed by people who understood your brain better than you did, who built the terrain, set the scent, and collected everything you left behind every time you passed through. Your attention is not an economic metric. It is the medium through which you experience your entire life. The only question left is who gets to decide what you hunt for.